But do the Eagles really want to go on the offensive line with two replacements to what has been their stalwart starting line? Last year it worked out perfectly. Dickerson filling in, steps in for Isaac, does the job. Now he's one of those blocks of granite that you're banking on as your foundation. You got your Mag guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Thank John Stolness for hopping on board. Eddie Kratz coming up less than 15 minutes now. Let me just add one more thing to the mix. Last question we asked John about who would you prioritize as the number one guy to get signed, and you pointed out all the guys on the defense. Basically, I love the way you said it. Basically, the entire defense is on a one-year contract, which is not 100% accurate, but
Josh Sweat, Abante Maddox, a couple guys are signed, but
too close for comfort. It's too accurate for the Eagles' liking. Let me put one other guy in the mix, not on the offensive side on the defensive side of the ball, on the offense. I think one of the more underrated players on the Philadelphia Eagles this year has been, and in previous years, Isaac Seumalo. Now, that was not the case because he was hurt last year. Can't underrate a guy while he's overrate a guy while he's hurt. Isaac's doing a phenomenal job again this year. And, oh, by the way, if this finally is the year that Jason Kelce steps aside and says, had enough, I got faith in the just newly minted and drafted replacement and beef jerky. But do the Eagles really want to go on the offensive line with two replacements to what has been their stalwart starting line? Last year it worked out perfectly. Dickerson filling in, steps in for Isaac, does the job. Now he's one of those blocks of granite that you're banking on as your foundation. If Kelce walks away, how much of a priority does it become to get Isaac re-signed?
Yeah, I think it's a priority anyway. But yeah, I agree even more so if Jason does walk away. And remember, Jason has told people this is it. Behind the scenes, he could always change his mind. No question about that. But yeah, I mean, they build through the offensive line, and they have their plan, and it's Cam Jurgens, but you'd like to keep Landon Dickerson, who's going to be there, and Isaac Seumalo around him. That would be very, very helpful for Cam Jurgens. And then you got to start thinking about Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson is doing sort of these mental health talks and mentioned he wants to play 2 more years. So, you got to start thinking about life after Lane Johnson as well. We just talked about it. This team values the offensive and defensive line. No question about it. Howie Roseman says it, for those listening, says it all the time. Says it when he drafted Cam Jurgens. Remember, a lot of people were upset when the Eagles drafted Cam Jurgens. And said, you need this, you need that. It's a luxury pick. Jason Kelce's going to play this year. And Howie said after the pick, well, look, we're always going to default to offensive, defensive line, because people were talking about Nakobe Dean because they ultimately got Nakobe in the 3rd round. People wanted him in the 2nd round. And he said, we're always going to default to offensive, defensive line. So, it's helpful. Isaac's injury history might be helpful in that part of it, because maybe it lowers his price a little bit. But I think a lot of Isaac Seumalo is going to be the open market and what he can get, because, he might have to offer a team discount. If somebody wants to go all in with Isaac Seumalo, it might be tough to keep him, to be honest. It's one of those tough decisions.
And one of the extra last night, sitting around watching Monday Night Football, I thought it would be an okay game. It was only okay. That's all that it was. But should have.
I like Baltimore. Baltimore's a good team.
Yeah, Roquan Smith steps right in and looks like he's been playing in that defense ever. He's just that talented a player. I do think they miss Wink Martindale more than some people are acknowledging. He's done a hell of a job for that Giant defense, and I think Baltimore misses him a little bit. But when you add guys like Roquan Smith on the fly to a good defense to begin with.
T.J. Hawkinson, a lot of this old school mentality is getting blown up. That, and I say it all the time because I've heard it from a million coaches over the years. It's not a plug and play league. It's not well, guess what?
Yeah, some
Minnesota
people are doing
plugged
it.
in T.J. Hawkinson. Baltimore plugged in Roquan Smith. The Eagles plugged in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's leading the NFL in interceptions. Hey guys, for those old school GMs out there, you better start rethinking that.
That's a very good point. But the Saints offense just wasn't very good last night. And I'll give the Ravens credit, but the Ravens, believe it or not, statistically, they're one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. And I really liked their secondary. Not only did I think they had 4 good starters, I thought they had depth. Adding Kyle Hamilton to a 2 good safety team already. They've given up a ton of passing yards this year. They didn't last night because the Red Rifle's the Red Rifle, and he's Andy Dalton, and the Saints didn't do anything. John, you're going to be end up being right on this one. You thought that the Saints were going to be mediocre. I thought they could actually compete. Now, they're 1 game out of first place. 1. That's all. 1 game out of first place.
Tampa Bay's in first place.
Right. But the Eagles do have their first pick, and right now would be like number 6 in the draft. Even though they're only 1 game out of first place, it's still the 6th pick in the draft that the Eagles would get if the season were to end right now. That's going to be a pretty damn good pick, John. Somebody's going to win that division. Maybe at 8-9. I don't think it's going to be 9-8. It's going to be 8-9. So it's going to be below 500 again. The way they looked last night, I don't think it's going to be the Saints, which means the Eagles are going to have a nice high draft pick.
No, I just, with the Saints, and I talked about it when the Eagles made the trade. I think Mickey Loomis did a bad job with self-evaluation. You can't just assume they have some good players. I mean, I talk about it all the time. Everybody has good players in the NFL, but you don't lose a potential Hall of Fame coach and replace him with Dennis Allen. You don't have a quarterback, whether it's Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton, and you're going to be a contender. I mean, that's not how this league works. I just thought he seriously misevaluated his team. It's worked out that way so far. They're still in the hunt, though, as you mentioned. When it comes down to a top 10 pick, they can't make the playoffs. So people have to hope that the Saints aren't that 8-9 team making the playoffs. But I don't think they will be. And I don't know what the deal is at quarterback there, because why they're playing Andy Dalton. Jameis has got to be out there. They got a bad coach. Bottom line, might be a good defensive coordinator, not a good head coach.
I think they have a bad organization. You're right, because Mickey Loomis misevaluated. Dennis isn't getting the job done. And I thought one of the key was keeping that staff in place, because I thought they were a good staff, but maybe it was all about Sean Payton. You maybe end up being very right about that. And oh, by the way, just another minor chip in Howie Roseman's stack. Maybe if they still had Ian Book, they could go to him as their quarterback. Where's Ian Book? Oh, is he still on the Eagles? Could you pick him out of a lineup, John McMullen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, he played at Notre Dame, so how could you not pick him out of a lineup?
I couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
I saw him play so many times at the college level. I mean, I think he was in 2 college football playoffs. He won a lot. When you think about the history of Notre Dame, I mean, they won a lot of games over the years, and he won more for them than anybody else. So he played for a long time.
Yeah, that's one of those faux stats.
Well, no, but I mean that means he's basically a 4-year starter. A 3-year starter, but he came in, I think, as And he won a lot of games at the college level.
But the reason for that is they've added games on the college level. It's the NFL's up to 17,
Well,
the
yeah,
college is up to 12, plus they got playoffs.
My only point is Notre Dame's on every stinking week, no matter if they're good, they're bad, they're indifferent. And they were really good for the most part when he was the quarterback. So how do you not see him? But yeah, he doesn't have. In fact, I've talked about it. To me, if you're going to have a developmental quarterback, I want somebody with skills that you can develop. I don't think he's got NFL top tier skills, but he's a good guy. He's obviously smart. Yeah. I think he's got all the intangibles the Eagles like, but I just think there's a limitation. We just saw it. He reminds me a little bit of Taylor Heineke, that type of quarterback. Undersized, can move a little bit. He's got some moxie, but I don't think he's got that top tier NFL talent to play the position.
Yeah, I was not a huge Book fan, even though you're right. He was winning games at Notre Dame. 4th round pick, I want to say, of the Saints.
Yeah. Fourth round.
So day 3 pick didn't excite me or didn't wow me in any way, shape, or form. And what he showed in the preseason games, and I know they're just the preseason games, and how much can you actually put into it? Well, when that's all you've got to evaluate, you have to put something into it. He did nothing to wow me, but maybe he actually could have gotten the Saints turned around. That's how mediocre their quarterback play has been, that you say, oh, what if we still had Ian Book? No, Ian Book.
Isn't Jameis healthy? I believe he's healthy. Like, why the hell isn't he playing? As far as I know, I believe he's healthy. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. But
makes no sense to me. And oh, by the way, and we just got a couple minutes, and we got to punch up Ed because he's got to run down and see what's it, Happy Tuesday with
Happy Tuesday
today.
Happy Tuesday.
Jeff Saturday, the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. We touched on Frank Reich, and would the Eagles bring him back?
Now, by the way, can I jump in, Jody? I got the prediction wrong, but I did say Jim Irsay is a wild card.
It's a nut job.
He's a nut job. Yeah. So I will put that caveat on it.
Yes, and he is. And he hired a guy with exactly 0 head coaching experience other than on the high school level, who's been doing TV for ESPN the last 5 years. And I'll defend her saying that he can hire the hell whoever he wants to be his head coach. And
yeah.
I'm seeing people, it's a slap in the face to all the other coaches. Shut up.
Yeah.
He can pick whoever he wants. He's the owner of the team. And it's not like he hired his brother. He hired an all-time Indianapolis Colt great.
In a weird way, look, I think he's a nut job. I think he made a mistake by firing Frank Reich, never mind hiring Jeff Saturday. But on the other hand, I at least admire the courage of his convictions. Look, if the Houston Texans did what they wanted to do, I don't know what Josh McCown would be as a coach. Could he be worse than Lovie Smith? Could he be worse than David Culley? David didn't do a bad job, I guess. But could he be that much worse? Probably not. I mean, at least he showed the courage of his convictions. I'll give him that. I mean, he's going to look like a moron if Jeff Saturday. And somebody brought up a good point. Like, why do you want to be the Colts head coach? Like, for all these people clutching their pearls about insert name should be the head coach of I saw Brian Flores. Brian's got a job, by the way. You can't just leave in season to become the head coach of the Colts. He's got a job.
Right.
But anyway, for all these people clutching their pearls, why would you want to be the head coach of the Colts, the interim head coach of the Colts, to lose whatever 7 out of 8 games, and you have that stain on your resume? Maybe Jeff Saturday's there just to do Jim Irsay a favor. Who knows? Who knows?
Would not be surprised over the case. And one of the names I saw that I love, Peyton Manning. Oh, he's got like 7 other jobs.
Yeah.
He's not going to go take over the Colts for a couple of months just to do a solid by his former franchise. Not happening. But let me just, again, I said this yesterday. John poo-pooed it. I'm standing by it. I will die on this hill. The starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts 12 days from now against the Philadelphia Eagles will be one Nick Foles. The new coach, Jeff Saturday, came out yesterday and said, oh, no, Sam Ellinger's still our quarterback. We're sticking with Sam Ellinger. The previous head coach, Frank Reich, was on record saying, we're probably best off having Sam Ellinger be the starter all year. I think Jeff Saturday gets one look at Sam Ellinger next week and goes, yeah, no, we need an NFL quarterback in there. And I saw what Nick Foles did coming off the bench in Philadelphia. It's time for us to get him off the bench here in Indianapolis and put him in a football game. Nicky 6 against the Eagles 12 days from now.
Right.
I tweeted it on Sunday when Sam Ellinger was throwing for 100 yards. Before Frank Reich was fired, I was tweeting, the Eagle fans, keep an eye out for this. Nick Foles versus the Eagles 2 weeks from now. And after what transpired the last 24, 48 hours with the uproar and upheaval in Indianapolis, I think it improves the chances of Nick Foles.
I think there's a potential chance you're partially right in that Sam Ellinger gets benched down 21-0, and you ultimately see Nick Foles in the game. I don't think he's going to start.
You think it's going to happen in game? I'm going before the game. You're predicting in game.
There's a possibility. He's so bad, and it's so they pulled the plug in game. But I think part of this plan is they want to lose games, and try to get a real quarterback. And Sam Ellinger is the best way to get there. I joked about Chris Ballard. The next move is to hire Sam Hinkie as the GM. I mean, they're tanking, let's be honest. And they are where they are.
Here's the reason why I think it could happen before the game starts. If and I assume Irsay is reading, seeing, hearing the same things I am. It's offensive. It's a slap in the face. This move is embarrassing for the National Football League. If he's taking any of it to heart, and he might be enough of a whack job that goes right over his head.
The opposite. Yeah, he don't give a rat's, what.
He might play it that way, but if there's a certain call from the commissioner that comes into his office and said, you and I talk too much here, Mr. Irsay, it's not good for the NFL overall if you're embarrassingly bad and look god awful. And by the way, you're going to be in a national game because the Eagles are undefeated. You sure you want to just continue on the way you are? He might just react and go, hey, Jeff, anything you can do to get us a win, to get the stink off what we are right now, feel free to go ahead and do. And that might mean Nick Foles gets a start. I'm just saying, I'll probably be wrong, but it dawned on me when I was watching Ellinger stink the other day and going, why aren't they putting Foles in the game? That they may do it this way. And then it'll be an interesting week for the Eagles fans, knowing that the best guy ever in the history of the National Football League, coming off the bench, the most accomplished, jump into the game quarterback in the history of the league who delivered a Super Bowl here to Philadelphia, might just be trying to beat the Eagles in that role come 12 days from now. Just saying. All right, Jody McDonald.
I wouldn't worry about it either way. I'll say that.
Yeah, they're probably going to win the game. Yeah. But what happens if Nick sticks their first?
Oh, I'd love to see it because I root for the story, but I'm very confident in the Eagles being able to beat Sam Ellinger or Nick Foles or Matt Ryan if you want to throw him in the mix.
Yeah. Be careful. They do still have Jonathan Taylor. I know he didn't play this week. He's got an ankle issue. Should be back for this upcoming week, assuming he's fine the week after. If the Colts beat the Eagles, it'll be more because of Jonathan Taylor than either Sam Ellinger or Nick Foles. All right, quickie timeout coming. Then our bud, Special Ed Kratz, jumping in with us here on Birds 365.